If there was one field I really wanted to get into when I was younger, it was working with games. No one in my family thought it was a surprise. From my school days, it all I ever did. I would come home from school, NES Master System, Mega Drive throughout the night, every night without a fail. I loved video games, and I always wanted to make one of my own. Fast forward many years later, here I am, afraid to walk out of my own house. I am writing this because I am worried about being taken away, and if there's anything that can get me out of a lot of trouble, it's this. The first place to start, I guess, would be the day I made the decision to create my own computer game. I didn't have any experience with any aspects of games of creation, you see. I am the kind of guy that would have all of the ambitions, but never followed them. I work long days at a job I hate, and my dreams of creating wonders for younger future generations was nearly dead. I wanted to do something about that. I took a look at the web, downloaded and bought some programs to help start it out. I had plans of making some good as well, as I received some indie horror games and hoped to get picked by a big company. I downloaded a wide variety of programs for different types of games: RPG, arcade 2D, shooters, beat 'em ups, just a range of categories that I use, and I still do. Also spent hours reading on tutorials. It's amazing on how different tutorials can give you so many different explanations about similar details. Sometimes I was even wondering if the tutorial writers knew what they were talking about, but I wasn't in the position to say, you're wrong or right. I started to create RPG using some basic stuff I learned while I was reading. I had an idea for a story in my head, a mystical game with dragons and magic, a wide variety of different heroes, mainly because I didn't like the idea of just one character overthrowing many types of evil. When I thought about another type of game, to which I thought it would be a good way to learn about how to give the character different choices and results, the text-based game. A style that was very popular in gaming in earlier years was text-based game that was essentially a play your storybook. Without the need for the book or something, I would use it to hopefully get a small fan base going. Without knowing too much of the graphics and certain sound creation, I had already had the idea for the story too. It was going to be, I had planned for RPG, and I had this plan of telling when I was a little lie, if my text-based game got enough downloads, that I would create an RPG based on the text-based game's popularity. I was thinking far ahead, as you couldn't already tell by now. I'm the kind of guy that believes everything he does and would have granted access. Took a while to finish the game, but I had made some changes about my RPG story a bit, just to make the story more modern sounding, and hopefully that goes well with some of the younger players. Halfway through the development though, my computer was being really weird. I wanted to make this game too. I broke out of my Windows-based laptop, and my game program didn't have the Mac version. The laptop being weird reminded me of how I wanted a MacBook in the first place. It was all lost enough. I was able to remove the hard drive from my laptop, and my neighbor and my best friend, Timothy, who was very good with computers and knew how to put a hard drive in a machine, and he currently wasn't using. All my files were saved for my game, so I was able to complete it, as I stated earlier. Through the completion though, Timothy handed me a disc. Like I said before, he knew a lot about computers and had been interested in getting this thing going before. The disc apparently had some files that could help me a lot with things when it came to making games, but he never used it. He said he never really had the chance, as it was given to him after he made a few programs. I popped the disc in, wondering what kind of add-ons it has. To my surprise, it only contained one file, a 47 KB program called completer.exe. I opened it up and opened it to the windows with my files in it, asking me to pick one. Some of the files were grayed out and they weren't compatible with this program, but my game wasn't so used to that. There was also some whirling noises coming from the computer. Then does the style window appeared. I went back to make some edits for the game and to see what the completer did. It did nothing. I finished a game titled Warrior's Choice and burned it onto a disk. The player had to be Timothy for helping me save the files. When I looked into the disk to him, I had to ask him where he got that completer disk from. He had a serious look on his face and he told me that he found the disk while looking through the abandoned house when he was away on holiday. The house was believed to be built on an ancient burial ground. My face went white. "Really?" I asked in horror. He laughed and gently patted the back of my hat. "No, you idiot," he said, laughing. I started to laugh too. "You really bought that?" "No, I got it from Steve, my cousin, who lives a few miles away. He said he never used it and saw me with the computer geek, and I thought that it would get some use out of it." I looked relieved, but I never really believed in those kind of things, but to receive an item from the so-called haunted building really got me. I handed him a game and left. He then told me he would play on his own time. I went back to my house, happily participating in the first review, but it was waiting for that. I created the account known as Fangame website and uploaded it on there. 1 week later, no downloads on the site, and nothing from Timothy. I gave him a phone call and he said that he hadn't gone around to playing it, as he had been really busy. I was a little annoyed by the excitement for an opinion. I realized I never played it myself, and I had to go back to work the next day, so I thought I would trail it when I got home. It was the original plan anyway, but when I got a text from Timothy, "I'll play it tonight." I went to bed knowing that he was on the game, and I could see the light from his window out of mine. Then about 2 a.m., I heard a loud noise. I didn't realize the severity of it until I looked out my window. There was an explosion in Timothy's room. The section of the house was completely opened, broken glass and brick on the road, and an arm. Emergency services were called in. Timothy was dead. Grieving parents were crying and cuddling outside. I was crying as I lost my best friend through a huge blast. It made the local news, but not the national, and the emergency teams were trying to find the cause of the explosion. It took them long for things to get somewhat back to normal. I had taken several days off. My boss was angered and I came in losing my job for no showing, and I was going through many stages of depression. 2 days ago, I checked the website again to see how the game was going. 3 page views, no downloads still. So I played it myself. I knew what I had to do, where to go obviously. But when I came to one part of the game that I didn't remember putting it in, one of my characters had to make a choice to pull one of the 2 switches. One was attached to the door to escape, and the other one to a large batch of explosives. I hesitated anything because a situation like this wasn't even my original plan. I had to try closing the program, but it wouldn't let me, so I made a choice, the right switch. Then in big red letters was covering the screen, and the game said game over, and my computer made very loud noises. You could hear loud electrical noises coming from the machine, so I acted quickly and put my finger over the power button. The noises were getting louder. The machine was heating up. The sweat and fear that was pouring out of my body, as I thought I was going to pass out when suddenly my computer turned off. I had held the power button long enough for the computer to switch off, but it didn't turn back on. I opened up the bottom and saw light flames. The wiring was damaged, as it was the hard drive. Did the completer program do something to my game? Where did it come from? I asked Timothy's family relocated after the house damage. They told me how to get to Steve's house, Timothy's cousin. I introduced myself and he seemed happy to invite me in. I never really knew Steve, nor that I have heard of him before. Timothy had mentioned him, but once I knew he was his best friend, he invited me in. He had asked me why I was here. I showed him the disc and I was covered in fear. I had never seen someone visibly shake the way he was doing. He even teared up. Apparently the program on the disc was created by a man who specializes in making destructive programs, but not the kind that stops the PC from working. His programs overload the system into a breaking point, causing devices to explode. The program didn't do it alone though. It had been assigned from the gamer creator file. I got angry at Steve when he practically gave me the deaf disc out, and he said he didn't know in the revelation until I have to give the game a try. Timothy, you see, Steve got the CD from this mystery guy, thinking it would help making games. Steve had no use for the CD, but that's because he knew someone else who did. His cousin had generally had no idea about this guy's hacking past until the CD was out of his possession. I had asked him about where the CD was now, and I had heard the man had been arrested in a connection of the explosion in another city. That when rumors started, he never told Timothy about that though, as the rumors seemed to be so real. I then remembered my game was available to the public. I asked Steve to use his computer, and he tried logging into my page to delete the game. Wrong password. Unbelievable. Might be a typo. I'll try again. Wrong password. Did my game alter my account too? Wrong password. You are locked out. Please contact the administrator. I nearly broke down. I knew I entered the right password, and I named it after my dog so I wouldn't be wrong. Steve called me over and he told me he wasn't going to believe this. And he was right on the main page. Feature game of the week, Warrior's Choice. 3,720 downloads and counting. So here I am, waiting for a knock at the door for the creator of the game, if I could potentially kill thousands of people. I had heard nothing yet. I am still waiting for the newspaper on how to report a story similar to Timothy's. While destructive program had nothing to do with me, I am now linked to it. I write this down to warn everybody not to download that game. I am torn apart now because I don't feel like I could go on. I am going to get in trouble, I know it, but there's nothing I can do about it. My life is over.